Calling the meeting to order. It's August 8th, 1920 or 2022. And
Or September 7th?
September, what did I say? August.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Mayor.
Everyone doing?
Hi.
Sorry, I'm sneaking out this way.
That's okay. Nice to see you.
You're gonna say,
Do I have any additions or deletions?
See ya.
Come on, have a good night, bye. So there's been a suggestion to move 9A after number 6.
It's been a suggestion to move 9A to, what was that?
After number 6.
After number 6.
So
Any-
looking for a motion.
Any motions to accept?
I accept.
Seconds?
Second.
Been moved and seconded, and all of those in favor say aye.
Additions and
So you wanna have,
deletions have been accepted. Announcements and introductions.
The I did.
yes,
The I.
what? Oh, yeah, okay, so yeah, so before moving on, just say, there's been a motion to approve the agenda, all those in, the amended agenda, all those in favor say aye.
There's been a motion, okay, you did.
Yeah, we say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We're in favor, we say aye.
Who's in favor? Okay. Any opposed?
Any opposed? Motion passes.
There you go.
Announcements and introductions.
Yeah, so I do have one announcement and then we'll do quick introductions. So I don't know if any of you have heard, but unfortunately Troy Kirby has stepped down as Park Board Commissioner. So we really appreciate his dedication of a term plus to the Park Board. And we will make sure and get that vacancy filled just as soon as possible. So just want to make sure you guys knew that. So let's introduce Chair Larson first. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Gary Larson, Chair.
I'm Commissioner Goodwin.
I'm Camber Good.
Dave Weber.
He's our commissioner. And I'm Jen Burbidge, Director, Parks, Culture, and Recreation. With us here tonight.
Cody Lee, Recreation Supervisor.
Bianca Schaefer, Recreation Coordinator.
Thank you. And we have Sarah Smith with us as well.
I'm Sarah Smith. I'm the Executive Assistant for the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department.
Great. And do we have any other staff that are on, Sarah?
We do not. We do have a panelist that's being promoted currently from HBB, but that's it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. And her agenda item will be after we're moving 9A up. So, but that's great. So we have Juliet Vong from HBB here tonight to talk about the QEO Park Phase 1A. Right.
We're at,
So-
4.
Mhm.
Approval and corrections of the August meeting minutes. Action item.
For a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a
I
second.
second.
Okay, motion approved.
All
Any
those in favor.
received
So you'll want to
correspondence?
say all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, correspondence.
Yes, we have several items of correspondence. The first one is an artwork donation proposal. And so if everybody read their packet, I did write the person back, let them know that we're not in a position to accept that at this time and referred them to the public art program through the city. The second one is the pickleball club touching base with us on wanting to add more pickleball courts at Rainier Vista Park. And this is something that the board had talked about before, and it's actually going to be on a future, it'll probably be on your work plan if you guys put it on there for next year. And then the third one is regarding dogs off leash, another item that actually this board has talked about putting on next year's work plan to kind of work through. It's an ongoing issue. And then the fourth item of correspondence is the Wanchers Park adjacent properties. There was a petition that had gone to the city council and they wanted it's neighbors that live around Wanchers Park. They wanted a copy to go to the park board as well. And the interesting thing is that the properties that they're suggesting that the city would buy are not for sale. So I just wanted to make sure that the board knew that piece of it. So those were the correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Citizens or public comment?
Sarah, did we receive any written public comments?
No, we did not.
Okay, and are there any, there's no members of the public here for
No,
comment?
currently no members of the public.
Okay, so then we go to 9A.
Okay, item 7, old business.
So this is where we go to 9A as an amendment.
9A.
Yep.
Director's report, staff presentations, Cody Lee and.
Christianka.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for letting these guys go first. So that, you know, they're welcome to stay, but in case they need to peel off and go do some other things, we can allow that. So happy to have the staff introduce themselves, and Cody's got a new full-time staff member that he wants to introduce, and just want to thank them before they get started for all their hard work this summer. As you guys know, it's been a fun and crazy, busy summer for all of our staff, and particularly in the youth and teen program area. So I will turn that over to Cody with some information.
All right, hi, yeah, my name's Cody Lee. I've been with the city for going on 15 years now. Recreation coordinator, supervisor now. That'll be a year here in November. So yeah, this summer we had an awesome summer. We oversee our youth programs. And so our first program that I'm going to talk about is our Playground Pals program. It's a free program for 6 to 12-year-olds. They come and do arts and crafts activities from 11:30 to 4, I think it was this summer. We had over 540 kids total in the program at our 2 different sites, which are Lydia Hawk and Lacey Elementary. And it's a free program, like I said. In the last couple of years, we've been lucky enough to be funded by North Thurston Public Schools. They gave us about $38,000 this summer to run the summer lunch program. So super lucky to have them. Just an awesome program. The kids love it, and it's just great to see them interact with staff and the impacts that we have on them. And then they're at sites where they get the free summer lunch that's provided by North Thurston Public Schools. And then our second program is our summer day camps. And those are all day long programs that run 8 weeks over the summer. Again, we have 2 sites, Lydia Hawk and Lakes Elementary. And this summer we got a grant from AWC. It's a SEEK grant that looked to serve disproportionately affected communities. And so again, we partnered with North Thurston Public Schools and targeted kids that were dealing with homelessness and other adverse situations. And with this grant, we were able to provide 63 fully scholarship opportunities for kids this summer, which was super awesome. And an opportunity that these kids will have not had in the past. So it was super cool to be a part of that. In total, we served 540 day campers. And I think I haven't finished the math on how much we're getting from the grant, but it was up to $83,000 to help support that program. And staff did amazing. Again, they go above and beyond, and they're really the ones that make the program happen and provide all these great opportunities for kids. And partway through the season or the summer, I finally got a rec coordinator, which was so lucky and so happy to have Christianka with us. She jumped right in, and it was not the easiest transition as being everything in full swing, but she jumped right in and was awesome and has been a great asset so far for us. And I see great things from Christianka in the future, but I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you.
Pleased to have you on board.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Christianka. I'm the new recreation coordinator under Cody. And It's an honor. My husband and I moved to Lacey almost a year ago now, and I've been working here for about 8 months. Previously as part-time under special events. So it's been really great getting to know the community, and I look forward to serving.
Thank you.
Great, thanks so much for being here, you guys.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's always nice for the park board members to get to know the staff and what everybody does, so.
Well, I'm with you. I am totally impressed by the work that you do. I know that all that goes on behind the scenes. I only get like a sliver of the opportunities that you provide out there in the community. So you've done amazing work in coordinating all that and herding kittens, if you will. It's a lot to do out there. Can we ask a question of them?
Yeah, of course.
For your programs that you're doing, the support that you get, are there any processes that need improvement, or are there any things that you're missing with any of your programs that would be helpful to get support with?
I mean, I think this summer was especially challenging, just staffing wise. I mean, always more staff would be great. And I think with the scholarships, you know, you're bringing in kids from different backgrounds and different upbringings, and I think staff found them more challenging than maybe we had estimated. And so I think that provided a new challenge for us. So I mean, having that extra staff would help alleviate some of that pressure, because some of the kids needed more one-on-ones that we, you know, aren't set up and designed to provide as a normal day camp. But
And have you had that problem in the past? Do you feel like some of it may be COVID, like trying to get kids back into the socializing and kind of adapting?
yeah, I
since you're
think
dealing with
some
a
of that definitely
6 to
played a
12
role. Yeah, definitely.
To lead into that, do you think any other specialized training that would be appropriate for some of the staff? Because I know you had kind of went towards people from different kind of backgrounds that, you know, may need more sensitivity and training like that. Would that be something else that you're kind of hinting towards possibly?
Yep, I think there are definitely some trainings that would be beneficial from staff, and that's actually something that Christianka and I have already talked about. And just, you know, trying to get them more resources and tools to be more successful in those situations is definitely something that we're looking at.
What was the one trip that we went to and there was that group that was for foster kids specifically, remember when we went out there?
Woodland Creek Park?
Yeah, it was a South Sound.
Like foster's community, like playground event and for special needs children, and it was just trying to acclimate them to that. So like we were talking about how, you know, and what was the other gentleman? I'm sorry. Byron, yeah. And that, you know, just being concerned of making sure that you address that kind of, you know, community appropriately. So like, that's where my mind goes to.
Yep, yeah, definitely.
The other thing we've talked about is really assessing what the community wants to see and what they want more of and what maybe we're not offering, you know, or accessibility type challenges. And so that's something that we're all going to be working on together as a department too. So, and Christianka brings some experience with that from her recent program that she just graduated from. So I don't know if you want to share more about that or.
Sure. So I recently got my certificate in user experience design, which is just making sure that people experience the best of what we can offer and really working through research and through community outreach to make sure that their needs are being met and not just their wants.
So, you know, ongoing surveys, you know, we're doing this huge push for the comprehensive plan update, but how do we engage on a more ongoing basis and really use that data to help us?
Well, working with them as opposed to kind of fighting against it, because you want it to be a good experience for both your staff members and the people that are using the programs. You don't want it to be, it's supposed to be a good time.
Yeah.
So I don't want that I really want to help whatever way we can help with that, please let me know.
Right, definitely, thank you.
Yeah, and I have a lot of groups that I'm associated with who are interested in working in this area with people with special needs or in the homelessness communities. They have a lot of background in that. So I'd be very interested to partner and help in any way, so.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so put me on your list.
Yeah.
of
That was the
Contact.
discussion too, the people that need those things are outside where you're taking the surveys currently, so you need to go where they are. Because right now, it's not easy to bring, a special needs child to these parks, because, they'll have a
Stimulated.
and overstimulated or something of that matter, so, sample outside of our parks as they are, so.
Any other questions for them?
No, I'm sorry.
No.
No, I'm,
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah, I'm excited for your programs and if whatever, like I said, we can do to be a support in that, I'm totally for it. Yeah, so just for me, I'll take. the-
Yeah, I'm wearing that flag for the special needs park, so
Yeah.
that's my department, like,
Okay.
excited.
And mine's for the homeless, cause I have, they're near and dear to my heart. So people who need that extra, just a little boost of confidence, or if they need, some partnerships with some people who can guide them, we
Mhm.
definitely are part of that, so
Okay,
I'd like to
yeah.
help you with that. You're no, thank you. You made my summer so awesome, thank you.
Well, you're welcome to stay or leave. Just don't take my convertible.
Take it, we should
I'm
go
going
out.
home with you.
We're going to Target, we're going to Target in
Yeah.
your Camaro.
Target?
Yeah, we're gonna go to Target in your Camaro.
Well,
That's
the
what the
back seat's
word,
pretty little.
that was on the agenda.
It was on the last page.
Thank you very much.
It was very nice meeting.
It was
you
nice
as
to
well.
meet you. I'm gonna step out and go have dinner with my children and,
Aw.
yeah,
Enjoy the rest of the sun too.
absolutely.
Yeah, we got another hour and a half.
It was nice to meet you guys and thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're having-
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations to you both. It looks like a win-win.
Yeah,
Thanks.
definitely.
Absolutely.
I look forward to working with you.
Okay, we're back.
We're back on track
Public,
to old business, yeah.
old business, Greg Coolio Park Phase 1 update. An HPV presentation.
Yes, do we have Juliet? Hi, Juliet.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I am going to share my screen and launch right into our presentation for tonight. So the purpose of today's presentation is just to update you on where we're at with our process. And in particular, we're really going to focus on those phase 1 improvements. What you're going to see is basically a preview of the presentation, or most of the parts of the presentation that we're developing for our next open house. So there are still a few placeholders as we're finding all the right photos and such, but you'll see that, and I'll talk you through that as we go through. So as a reminder for those of you, I'm not sure I've met everybody quite on the group here, or at least I'm not recognizing all the faces since we haven't been in person, but my name is Juliet Vong with HBB Landscape Architecture, and we have been fortunate enough to be working with the city through the master plan process and the initial phase improvements for Greg Coolio Park. And we have a large team, both of city staff as well as consultants and specialists that have been supporting us throughout the whole process. So unless there's any specific questions, Jen, should I just launch right into this?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. I'm going to cruise through some of the upfront stuff since it's mostly old information for you, and just really focus on these phase 1A improvements. Pause a little bit for some discussion if you have any questions, and then we'll just highlight some of our next steps of where we're going. This is our master plan process. So this is just a snapshot of what was really a very lengthy and involved process with a lot of public involvement throughout. And really culminating in a very strong vision for this greenways, the park and greenways, to preserve the open space, really protect the kind of amazing context and the site that's there, and the enhance the environment that's there, enhance it where we can, And within that context, though, recognize that there's a balance between that natural environment and still actually having some recreation opportunities for the community to get out there and experience and enjoy it as well. So this is just what our master plan looked like. This is focusing and showing on the primary access off of Carpenter Road. This is Carpenter Road that kind of bisects the Greg Cuyo Park properties. And the bulk of our improvements in this yellow box and kind of the open space, what we call the core area. So this is kind of the list of those improvements. Most of the improvements are in the open meadow, and that's where we're going to be focusing our phase 1 improvements on. I'll show you that in more detail in a minute. And that is primarily to minimize impacts to wildlife habitat, wetlands, streams, and other environmental conditions throughout the site. So you can see the collection of activities that we have kind of scattered throughout this core area, with some opportunities at the rest of the 4 quadrants so that everybody really can access into this master plan and have access to the site. Our master plan process resulted in these guiding principles that really guide the decision-making process, the priorities, and how we address final design, as well as the programmatic elements that are part of the master plan. And you can see from these bubbles on the side here, just the extensiveness of that public comment period. So the master plan itself, of course, you have the 3 Greg Cuyo Park parcels, Pleasant Glade Park and Palm Creek Headwaters. Phase 1A focuses just on this core area of improvements. Here's a little bit of a bird's eye of what phase 1A would include and the programmatic elements associated with that. This is looking west, so this is as if you're kind of up in the air, that bird's eye perspective from the corner, kind of looking this direction across the meadow. So you'll see in the background, we've got parking, we've got a play area, some open lawn, picnic, and a shelter. And then this forested area in the background is where you would see the disc golf and some of the rest of the trail system. Phase 1A improvements does include the actual access road, a drive-in, as well as the parking for about 50 some odd stalls. This I realize is a little hard to read from this scale, but we'll kind of go through a series of slides that shows what this is in greater detail. But the white line is the phase 1A improvements boundary within the parcel. Part of this is a protected water resource zone, so it will have a fence and kind of be guided tours only, but the rest of the site will be open with trails throughout both the forest and the meadow area. And then the core improvements where we have our playground, open lawn and picnic area, a large picnic shelter, some accessible paved paths to get to an accessible playground, and then the parking that supports both the park improvements in the core area as well as the disc golf throughout the rest of the site. These are those accessible trails that we talked about. So these would be the paved trails. So you have small loops and large loops all attached and accessible to the parking lot. Also provides the accessible routes to get to the shelter, picnic tables, and playground that would also all have full universal accessibility, and then some temporary porta potty enclosures as well. We're kind of oversizing the bioretention so we can accommodate the parking and the impervious surface we have now, as well as kind of think about that future expansion for other phases down the road. Any questions on the overall phase 1? And then in a minute here, I'll kind of show you some greater detail. I just want to pause both to take a breath and to make sure I have some space for you to ask any questions.
When would the signage be posted? When would we get signage in? Is that first step or is that later in the?
Yeah, so like sort of a monument sign that says like, you know, this is Greg Cuyo Park would be part of this phase 1A. So you can see in this corner here, the access drive, the new park sign would basically be right off the access drive. And then there would be some wayfinding sign and kind of directional sign, particular for mostly for the trail system up in the north end and as part of that disc golf course. So moving into the disc golf course itself, we have an 18-hole disc golf course that's going in as part of phase 1A. It has a handful of holes down in the open meadow spots, kind of that nice rolling holes, gives them nice long routes. And then the remainder of the 18 holes is off of the trail system back in the woods. So it gives them a variety of challenges and a variety of opportunities to kind of do different levels of play. You can kind of see a little photo example of what that looks like, where you have your main trail system, and then you have kind of the tee of the disc golf with a basket kind of off into the trees. So they intentionally have to kind of go around and through some of the trees to access and use that course as it comes throughout. There is a future expansion component. So the second 18 holes, which would make for the full gold level course, is part of a future expansion that would happen at a later date, reaching out towards Pleasant Glade. Wayfinding and signage improvements are part of this, and informal trails, basically like smaller mulch trails, connect some of the disc golf course components and areas to the main trail system. There are 3 levels of trails. There's a primary trail that is 10 feet wide, crushed rock. This is well, you know, we're still in design whether it's fully accessible, but this is going to be the more accessible trail. So larger crushed surfacing, shallower grades. It is not paved, but it should be fairly easier to maneuver and travel along those routes for both peds and bikes. Secondary trails are in orange. Those are basically smaller trails. They help access some of the secondary holes in the disc golf course from both sides, but also just provide a smaller kind of more informal trail system. And then what we're calling the informal trails provide some kind of tertiary connections. They're narrower, they're mulch only. They're not intended to be fully accessible, but they will be, you know, fairly shallow and level grades for the most part. Those are basically at the very edges where we do cut through some of the buffer areas to get a shortcut through and to provide some of these loops and just better accessibility to some of the areas of the trails. Here's what those primary trails look like. The secondary trails, just a little narrower, but still crushed rock. And then those tertiary trails become a little bit more like those maintained but woodland character type trails.
What's the length for the total amount of walking trails?
2 miles?
About 2 miles, I think, is what we calculated. And that's primarily this main trail, plus I think this kind of secondary trail. I think you get a little bit more out of that when you start calculating all the rest of the trails.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here's a
I mean, you've been out there, so it's
It's
hard when you're
massive.
looking at the screen, and so
Yeah,
it's
to
good to ask those
translate it,
questions,
to
'cause-
translate it in your mind. And then when you're
Yeah.
trying to explain it to other people about how much, you know, because you were talking 20 miles all the way across. I mean, when the full project goes across, is that about right? If you're going from
not
Pleasant Glade,
20 miles across, or
like
all
if
the
you
way-
were, yeah, like if you were doing it from,
that
what's-
sounds high to me, but
Yeah, I'm thinking like if you added up all the trails and all in the entire master plan, you're probably more in like the 5 to 10 mile range. It would be my guess. 20 feels a little bit high. I'm not sure where that number would have come from.
we'd have to get back to you on that one. I don't recall that figure off the top of my head.
well, I just didn't know. I just didn't know because when we started over in Pleasant Glade and you go all the way over, that
On the
seems,
east side.
yeah, it seems, I didn't know how many miles we were in between. 'Cause you were saying-
Yeah, because we took the road, so I think that's a really good question.
Yeah, it is.
Our bike riders are asking us, they're like, well,
Yeah.
how far is that? And I was like, I have no idea. I was like, when we drove around, I was like, we probably did 20 miles if we were going in circles and
Yeah,
driving
because
around
we drove around when we did the tour. We drove around on the
on the
roads,
outside of it.
so.
So I was trying to figure out like the distance, because bike riders are asking us like, how far would it go if you were going from, say, Pleasant Glade or Chinook Middle School over to Brighton in that neighborhood? How far would that go across? How far would that
Yeah,
expand?
we can come back with that distance. I think you're closer to the 3 to 5 miles if you're just cutting across the park, but I think it'd be worthwhile to sort of calculate all of the parks in the master plan as a whole. Like if you were just to do all of the loops that would be available, how far could you go? That would be kind of a different number. We can get back to you with that.
Okay,
That
yeah,
would be informational on site signage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, trail.
Mhm.
because that's what they're really interested in, is how much can you do in one park? They want to know
Yeah.
how much
Right.
walking, how much
And
riding.
To your point about signage, you kind of want to know how far what you're getting into when you head off on this trail. Like how far do you have to expect to go to get back to? Okay, so this is a little bit larger view of that aerial. So just to kind of give you a bit of perspective of what is part of just phase 1A. So you'd come in off the right-hand side of the page on our entry drive. You have the parking lot. You basically would have a series of paved paths that take you to the playground. You kind of have a loop that you can do around the open space, some more formal lawns for like, you can do your Frisbee and just kind of pick up games and more family activities. Kind of a more open meadow. This is the area that in the future would get developed as more the community garden and food forest. So we want to kind of keep it open, but less heavily maintained. And then a series of picnic tables, so picnic area in the open air, and then the covered picnic shelter that would serve for larger groups.
Question. Was it ever considered moving the playground closer to the sheltered area?
So we did, and there's actually future, there would be a second shelter that would be geared more immediately to the playground. So the idea being you like to have large groups that maybe are within sight line of the playground, but not right next to the playground, because not everybody is coming, in the middle of wants to be in the middle of the playground, but you want smaller shelters also right next to the playground for all those kids' activities and parties and things that really want to have the direct access to play. The future restroom is also kind of nicely located and tucked by this mound kind of in between the two. Right now we have a series of kind of a nicer porta potty enclosure because we don't have utility access to the site yet. Since the first picnic shelter that's getting installed is a much larger shelter, we wanted to maximize the groups who might want to use that. And so that's why we picked the one that was a little bit further away.
So there will be a smaller one eventually, yeah.
Yeah, smaller ones, actually two smaller ones, I think. One sits here and one sits a little further off this view. Any other questions on these improvements?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things for the open house we did want to get some specific input on is on the playground character itself. So as a quick reminder, here's the master plan. Here's one of those extra shelters. Here's the other shelter that I was just referring to. This one right here is the shelter we're building. It grew a little. You can see from the master plan to the proposed improvements. For the playground, we're building this first little playground node. There's two others that would have expansion of the playground in the future. So we wanted to get a sense from the community what kind of playground character is most interested in. So as part of the open house, we want to recognize that it wants to be colorful, it needs to be accessible, it wants to be engaging, it wants to kind of have its own real character and be something that's really fun and unique. So we've got sort of three general character options that we want people from the community and for your input tonight as well to give us any feedback on. The first is more trucks, blocks, boulders, kind of think, things that all kids kind of like to get into and can really kind of get some imagination going. Building blocks, lots of like climbing sorts of stuff, natural boulders, as well as equipment that sort of reminds you of construction or vehicles, cars, trucks, that sort of thing. The second option is trees and nature. So think more kind of natural colors. You can still integrate some brightness to it, bright yellows and greens, but maybe the bigger structures feel more like trees or have reminiscence of leaves and plants and things like that. And then the third option is what we're calling animals and critters. So think large oversized animals that you can play in and slides that go down, a frog's back, that kind of thing. So we're still developing some photos of other examples of what those would look like, but we would ask the open house, people to give us some input on if there's a particular character or idea or theme that they'd really like to see for the park. And then they'll be able to click on the link, do their little QR code scan or type in the link and take the survey. Any thoughts or questions?
Do any of those have options to be a spray park?
No, we don't have water coming in at this point. This wasn't a spot that was identified for a spray park at this time.
Oh, okay.
You got water. You have water?
No, it's stubbed in for future utilities. But
How are you gonna mow the lawn?
there
How are you
isn't.
gonna Keep the lawn from.
it's gonna be, it's non-irrigated at this time.
Not irrigated lawn, so it'll stay green during the wet season, and then it does go dry. We use a more drought tolerant lawn type, some more native lawn types. But it will turn brown in the summer until those utilities really are able to come through down the road. We're just a little farther away from where any utilities are accessible, with part of this initial improvement.
Yeah, it would have been about $3 million more,
Extend the city water.
to, what's that? Yeah.
Extend the city water.
Yeah, it was, and so what, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to choose what to put in, but it was, just basics at this point, so.
We can't.
And
drill
that's still
wells,
it's a $5.5 million project.
But we can't drill wells in the interim?
Do you have an answer to no, I don't believe so.
Why would they permit that?
Yeah, I think it's a whole separate permitting process to drill a well, and try to put in the pump and the rest of the system for that well. And it's a system that the city would not maintain very well, right? They would not prefer to maintain it long term. We have to kind of plan for having sewer connections, water connections, kind of really to fully develop and support a larger system. A well is just kind of a smaller system to try and support something of this size long term. So the desire to not invest in some temporary facilities when we know the larger facilities are coming in. And so what it does is it takes our initial investment, the funding that we do have available, and kind of puts it to the activities, things that people can do to get out and walk the trails and have a playground and physically start to experience the site, knowing that utilities are just going to take a longer time and more cost to develop.
Well, I would assume if you put wells in, the city would monitor them. They got wells all over the water department. Cause I've worked with wells with the city and schools and stuff. And we put wells in for service to schools and everything, even at South Bay Elementary. Pleasant Glade, I think we run water down. I got city water. We came up that back property line, the east
Yeah.
property line extended water there, so that side has it.
Mhm.
So-
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so
if there's a future phase that the water is expected to be pulled down along with Carpenter improvements, like, within future improvements, if there's ever, if that's not going to happen, or if that starts taking longer, or if there's an opportunity to do some smaller investments as part of future, those are always things you can continue to explore. I think the desire was just to tie into a city system if we can, and it appears that we will be able to as part of a future phase.
And it went through, a pretty extensive site plan
Mhm.
by all the city staff, so that was,
More of
Yeah.
a curiosity question and.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
just,
we looked at all the options available, and so kind of picked the one that, again, we're kind of look at life cycle and long-term use, and picked the one that seemed like it would kind of be the best investment long-term, even if we have to wait a little longer to get it in.
I was just thinking either if it wasn't happening now, at least in the future, if it was something that we were kind of leaning towards that we could do in the future, building it now to be just a regular park, which was fine, but eventually that it could morph into a
Mhm.
a water park, because I know that we have been asked a billion times until like, yeah, I don't know when it's coming, but if there was something on our docket that we knew it's a possibility that we could kind of structure it now to be a regular park and then build into the future. to
yeah,
be-
so it's interesting, we are getting a lot of feedback about spray parks, but going through the master planning process for this site, that wasn't a theme that came up
For
the
this
top for
particular-
this particular park.
Okay.
And
And
going,
remember, we did ask people if spray park was kind of some of the early programming, is this something you want? And at the end of the day, people just felt there were better places in the city for a spray park. This site was so natural and kind of so heavily used by wildlife and wildlife corridors, that through that process, we really kind of heard that there are other places that could be better used as a spray park. And there wasn't a lot of really, there was a recognition that there was a spray park needed in the city. There was not a lot of support for a spray park at this location.
yeah, and kind of the same thing happened with pickleball too. We, kind of went through that conversation and just determined that this wasn't the best spot for it. So
Well, boondocks almost.
a little bit, yeah. Oh, Commissioner Good.
When I was looking at the different park options, I was trying to consider the actual amount of children that would have opportunity to play at one time. Cause I feel like, I mean, I know those weren't the exact images of the playgrounds, but like the truck one, something like that would be less accessible to more children at once, I guess safely. And then, like I've noted before, people or individuals with special needs may not be comfortable in spaces like that. But at the same, you know what I mean, like trying to look at that. So I was just curious if like one to another, like how many children safely can play or what it's recommended for, because I feel like that kind of also makes a difference. Because I mean, I know every single park I take my kids to I mean, you can only, I don't know, maybe I'm paranoid, but after maybe a good 15 minutes, like I get a little overwhelmed by all the kids and them, you know, like walking over each other. So, you know.
Yeah, I think part of the playground design is to sort of find and have spaces, particularly because we are looking at this as a universal play experience and inclusive experience, which means that even if you have like a big truck, it's one part and there's lots of other places and play opportunities that would be still part of the playground design. So even if we talk about like trucks and blocks and everyone says, yes, we love this idea, it's not all trucks, right? It needs to have that variety of big, small, open, semi, protected. You need that mix of activities and types of activities so that kids can disperse, one, and also find the type of play that they're trying to find that's unique to them. So it's really just a guide and a way to kind of have the public give us a little input. And of course, we also, as part of the open house, will have an open comment. So if someone says, we really want to make sure there's swings, or we really want to make sure there's X, or we really want things to be very inclusive, we can continue to take that feedback as we design the playground components themselves.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think to your point, though, it is good for us as we're looking for those photos to fill it out, to make sure that we show that variety. I think, because you don't want someone to sort of look at the truck and say, oh, well, I don't want a truck, and then sort of pick something else. We want to be able to either through some words or the presentation convey the variety that would be at any playground. So I think that's still good feedback for us to have moving forward. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, let me go through just kind of the last couple of slides we have here, and then if there's any other questions, we can continue the discussion. So this, all of a sudden, our red line, if you've seen this before, moved, right? We're back at the beginning again, because this is really looking at just the phase 1 improvements. So it goes through that final design process, getting all of our environmental documentation in order, getting our survey, doing our 30% design, which is what we literally turned in today. So super excited about that. And then we start looking at final design and permitting process. You can see that we're basically looking at trying to get a contract award, mobilization, groundbreaking in the first quarter of 2024. Gives us about a year of final design and permitting. And then that also allows us some opportunities. What we're in the process right now is we did submit for some RCO grants. So we should be able to sort of find out in the next couple of months the results of that grant process and then how that can affect the rest of the design. Series of upcoming meetings today, as well as in the future, just to give you a heads up, and you can kind of keep this as a resource moving down the line. And then we will always remind everybody to check back the website, but also we'll end at the open house with our call to go on the survey and give us some comments and feedback. Any final questions?
I have something just to note, September 14th, we do have a meeting with any neighbor who is immediately adjacent to phase 1A. So Juliet, can you go back to the slide that kind of shows the neighborhoods?
Hang on. This is maybe not a bad one. I can go.
Yeah, so if you want,
sorry. Too far. Here we go.
right, so we actually, for this particular one, we did a direct mailing and tried to find phone numbers too of people that are closest. So like, see where the hand is, her cursor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's, there's a disc golf course. There's going to be quite a buffer between, but they're going to want to know that that's happening. And we're not, don't know if they have actually come to any of the other workshops. So we're actually doing an in-person sit down on September 14th. There were, I want to say 14 households invited. So it's right around, there's a property owner.
There's a handful here. There's, we made sure there's a handful kind of right to the south of our site. There's gonna, be a new park where there's nothing for the last quite a few years. And then there's a property immediately across.
And in the area up at the top left that you're doing, is there parking? Is that the place where the parking issue is gonna be?
There, yes, right. So there is a cul-de-sac and there is gonna be no parking for the park in that cul-de-sac. We don't think it's gonna be a huge issue because most people using the disc golf course are gonna wanna park in the main parking.
That's why I was asking about the signage, because if you don't have that up before Frisbee.
Yeah.
I can imagine people would probably be trying to find their way in other ways to get in there.
Yeah, there might be, and so we'll just have to work through those challenges, but it's helpful to be able to tell the neighbors what to do if somebody's, who to call and how
When
to.
is that scheduled?
So that's September 14th, so that's coming up here next week, next Wednesday, as a matter of fact.
Just to hear it all.
Yeah, you're welcome to. It's in the community room over, that's at 6 o'clock. Yeah, you're welcome to come. Well, actually, if we have a quorum, it needs to be advertised as a public meeting. So
And everybody else coming?
who all is interested in coming?
If you go, would you report back?
Yes.
Okay, at our meeting? Can we do it
Yeah,
that way
yeah,
so
yeah.
that there's
Yes,
a
I will.
report back? Okay, that'd be
Yeah.
great, Gary, if
Okay,
you
great.
could go,
Yeah, for sure.
just so we make it legit. But I do want to
Yeah.
hear about it.
I mean, yeah, we'll be reporting out too, but that's great. Yeah. Appreciate that.
I won't get any arguments, I promise, or
No,
anything.
no, no. We got the
We'll
I'm
have
just
to-
looking for our next meeting after the open house, because we have the
Yeah,
meeting on the 14th, then the open house on the 28th, and then we'll come back to you to report out what we heard from the open house. So that'll be your next kind of report out period for that.
yeah, so Juliet will be coming back for the 5th, so we'll see her next month.
Okay.
And then we will report out to city council at a work session on the 27th. That's perfect.
Okay.
Any other questions for Juliet? Well, thank you very much.
Thank
And,
you.
We look forward
Absolutely.
to the 14th. Are you the presenter? And
She'll be one of, yeah, it's city staff and Juliet will be coming down.
Yep, in person.
It's a theater in person, Gary.
Thank you all. You guys have a good night.
You too, thanks.
Dave, did you have any questions?
You're on mute.
I'm a lip reader. He said I did not.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're correct, Jen. That's perfect.
Yes.
Okay, item 7B. Comprehensive Plan Public Engagement Update.
Yes, well, first, I just want to thank you commissioners for helping. Thank you so much for being out there and engaging with the community. We really, really appreciate it. Sarah has the schedule that she was gonna share. We have one more outreach event. So at this point, we're gonna be focusing quite a bit on sports field users because they're a little different than just regular community. She's also, after we get to it, she's going to share some of the preliminary feedback that we've been getting, and I'll point out a couple things as we go through that too, so.
All right, so I will go ahead and share the calendar first. All right, so we ended up not being able to make Wonderwood work. We've got the Panorama Wellness Fair, that's tomorrow. I will be there, and Gary, if you're still there, I'll meet you there. And then our last event is gonna be September 17th, and that's gonna be over at Rainier Vista Park from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And Doug Briggs is one of our sports guys, and he's gonna be helping out with that. So he's gonna run that event. If anybody is able to make it to help him out that day, that would be great. So do we happen to have anyone who's
That
able
one.
to be here?
Sarah, you can put me on that one.
All right, sorry, and that's Wendy, Wendy or Camber, I can't.
Amber.
I
Okay,
can
sorry.
go. Saturday, September 17th.
Yep.
Yeah, I can do that one.
Jerry, are you good with this one?
Um,
Thursday, tomorrow from 1 to 3
I'm
at
gonna try to
no,
race
I've
you
gotta
for
go
people.
south.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Then I
Well,
gotta take
What do you mean
the
to shame?
dog.
Do I just need to sit at the
Oh, okay.
table?
Hey Sarah, look, here he
Yeah.
says that he's not available tomorrow, as it turns out.
No worries, that's okay. Yeah, it's, I checked in with Jeanette. It's, usually like a big event, but it's not huge. I'll probably be fine running it on my own, honestly.
You right?
Okay.
Tomorrow's 1 to 3.
Yeah, I can go with you. Sarah, I can do tomorrow. at
That would be awesome. Yeah, I never turn down help, believe me.
I'm there. I had it on the schedule.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, why do they only have?
So
It's
Thursday.
in my phone.
Well, do you guys want to split up? I mean, we may not need, I mean, of course, we'll take all the help we can, but if one of you wants to take one and one the other, it's up to you.
I just need to know if they're not gonna be going on. I showed up at the Woodland Creek one for the steam because it said I had a booth for that one and there was no one there for that. So I don't know.
What
'Cause
do you
I-
want tomorrow and I'll do Saturday?
Doesn't matter to me.
I'll do that.
You want,
Yeah, I'll do Saturday, the 17th then.
okay, and then where do I meet you at Panorama?
I will text you or I will email you the address and then let you know where it's at because I had to look it up myself. So,
Okay.
all right, I will do that right after this meeting. Okay.
Spend one last more day with my kindergarten.
So that's the calendar of events. And then I wanted to go over some of the preliminary survey results with everybody. So this is not the final thing. It's just what we've gotten back so far. So we're still gathering results. And so as of today, this is what it looks like. So indoor recreation opportunities, when people can click however many they want, pool is always extremely popular. Then we've got indoor playground, teen center, ice rink, indoor sport court, senior center, and then none of the above. But when people click one, they overwhelmingly go for the pool. And then indoor playground, ice rink, and senior center are next. And then for a spray park, Northeast and Southwest Lacey seem to be the most popular, and they kind of remain that way no matter what. And then we've got our future components of Greg Cuyo, more trails, outdoor spaces. We've got large playgrounds, community garden, fitness loop, adventure track, and off-leash dog area are so close. And then cross-country courses is also on the list. But then when they can only pick one, preservation of outdoor spaces actually beats out trails, which I thought was very interesting. Then we've got our classes that we're offering. And so we're asking people a little bit more about what classes they want to see. Cooking classes really come out on top. People really want to do more stuff with cooking and food. Art seems to be pretty close up there too. And then when people can only pick one, it's overwhelmingly cooking classes by a lot. So I think people are really itching to do more cooking. And our scholarship program, we don't have a lot of people using it, but we do have quite a few. I'm going to be doing a report end of the year about a little bit more about this. And then our sports fields, we're actually reaching out to our sports user groups too, to get more feedback on this for the fields. So increased people, it seems like none of the above are pretty popular. So I think a lot of people are thinking the smaller neighborhood parks from what I can gather based on the data. The RAC comes in next, of course, followed by Rainier Vista. All of them is also very popular. Where are you? Come on, there we go.
And so this one, oh, can you stay there for just a second? This is where I wanted to note that the sports field users are a different clientele than just a regular park goer that's going to the playground, right? So that's where this month we're really focusing on getting those sports user groups. Sarah just sent today, or maybe it's tomorrow. How many on the sports user group spreadsheet do we have?
We had, I believe it was close to 40.
40 different user groups that book our fields. And so yeah, where, the average park goer is gonna say none of the above, I wouldn't really be likely to book. Our sports
Yeah.
groups are going to be able to kind of balance that data out a little bit more.
Yeah, they'll help out. And then we've got what used people book the fields for. So presuming that none of the above are those people or general park goers. We see a lot of soccer and then softball and then ultimate frisbee and baseball are up there. And then people do other. So usually just play parties and things like that. And then being turned away from field use really doesn't happen very often at all.
Again,
More folks on our digital newsletter, which is great. People wanted to enter to win prizes. I thought I'd include that data. And then we've got our demographic information, which is pretty cool. So we've got a lot of our people who are responding are 35 to 44 or 25 to 34 are the biggest groups of people that are responding, followed closely by 45 to 54. Mostly women filling out the survey, which is pretty cool. And then we're trying to reach out and get more diverse group of respondents and see what we can do. We've got the survey in a bunch of different languages. And it looks like we are starting to try and reach some of those groups, but I'm hoping we can expand a little bit more. Same here. And
And Sarah, something we should do is compare what Lacey's data is, what Lacey's breakdown is, and compare to how many surveys we've gotten from those groups. But we'll take a next step and do that.
yeah, that'll be for the final presentation on the data. I'll make a note to do that and make sure that I'm comparing the demographic data in the city.
Perfect. So yeah, so almost 500 surveys.
Yep, a little actually including the handwritten ones, which we got in, it's actually about 570.
So this month is our final push to get as many as we can. So if you guys have places you can send it, we've been sending it out to our media outlets, social media, on the website, obviously you've been doing the outreach.
The cards are awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Those cards,
You're welcome.
that's nice. They will do them actually in the park for us while we're there with the
Yeah.
cards, so.
It's great. I'll have more printed up too. That's actually a good reminder. I'll make some more today for or tomorrow for myself too.
And you have koozies, right?
Yes, I have a whole box.
Okay, yes,
Very popular.
yes, I've been recording. We have to put QR codes on koozies next.
Yeah, it's smart.
Koozie QR.
Now
code.
we know.
Thank you, Sarah, for all your help on this.
Of course, you're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, where are we at? Oh,
7C.
7C, Young Child and Family Center of Lacey update.
Yes, so just a quick one on this topic to let you know, the city met with North Thurston Public Schools and the YMCA on August 17th. We're meeting monthly now to talk about this early learning center with a pool and potential spray park as well. So we started talking through like how it could be operated and where some of the bigger funding buckets could come from. It could potentially be that since North Thurston Public Schools owns that land, it's over at the Bucknell and Nisqually site. And they operate the early learning center portion, then they would lease to the YMCA for the indoor recreation opportunities. Potentially the city could be in charge of the outdoor stuff, like the spray park and maybe a regular type playground. And so next really is, the funding piece. So determining the larger funding buckets, reaching out. So we'll be setting up meetings with our partners, with the military and seeing what, there's some sizable grants potentially there. And then just looking also at any other funding buckets we might have access to, like Department of Commerce funding or one of their programs is CDBG, and they have other programs as well. Yes.
So you're working with North Thurston and the YMCA
Yep.
on program there?
Yeah. So
vacant land?
were you here when I gave the big presentation? Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, we did a pretty extensive one last time. So I think Commissioner Good had a question.
Oh, it was more of a statement. I know that the current Joint Commander of JBLM is working on reaching out to local government to establish brigades to the school districts. And so that might be a very good opportunity for some of that to take place.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I've been facilitating those meets, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the plan for North Thurston with all that property? It's 39 acres.
Yeah,
Not,
so it's
uh,
actually 15,
About a 15-acre piece.
yeah, so let
Oh,
me
wonderful.
let me pull up for you just real quickly. I'm not gonna go through the whole slideshow, but let's see. That would have been last meeting.
Oh, Colonel Lamb, Joint Base Amusement Corps, Colonel Lamb. Basically, he would assign an actual brigade from the installation to school districts in the neighboring, cities to JBLM. That way that they can overlap.
All right, I need to share my screen here.
Just a program.
And I can update you more offline too, but
Okay, yeah.
it's basically, this is the Nisqually or Bucknell site.
Right.
It's about 15 acres.
Of it.
And so this is what could go on the site is all these things. And then here's actually an early rendering of what it could look
Oh,
like.
wonderful.
Yeah, so spray park outside, there'd be, the learning center, 45,000 square feet of it, and the public use portion would be 25,000. That would include an indoor playground and a pool. Just looking at some of the things that the community is wanting, so we don't wanna go back and spend too much time since we.
No. that's
I'm happy to send that to you too, if you want.
Okay.
Yep, that's all. I may reach out to you, Commissioner, on that
Whatever you
connection,
need,
so, thank you.
You don't have to ask, just.
Just
holler.
send away.
Appreciate
If you need us.
it. Guys are awesome.
We're on to new business, item 8, neighborhood and commercial zoning.
Yeah, and on this one, so essentially, I'll just give you a quick, tip, and I'm actually gonna email this out to all the park board members. So the August 25th, city council work session. So let me share my screen with our city's website. I would encourage all commissioners to watch that work session if you haven't already.
17.
August 25th. And I'll send you the link, but essentially how you would access is, let me show you here. So if you go to cityoflacey.org and then you go to government, public meetings, if you go to the August, so it automatically brings up the month that we're on, but if you go to the August 25th, so you go August, and then 25th. And you go down here, you can actually watch the video of that. And I would really encourage you because the Community and Economic Development Department gave a real great overview of what the quasi judicial process is and what the options are should there be a different decision on how to move forward. And so they updated the council on that. And then they also, this was really interesting to me, the neighborhood commercial designation review. They actually shared some really good slides about why the neighborhood commercial designation exists. And a couple of the highlights I'll point out are that two things. The neighborhood commercial is set up so that it's convenient for people to be able to access, a market or a coffee shop, something close to their home. There's also a regional plan that the city is a part of, and it's about reducing, car trips and things like that. So it's the environmental aspect of the, walking. So it was just kind of some interesting points that were brought up. They also showed that there are 8 neighborhood commercial zones in Lacey. So they showed the slides that are on that presentation shows where they are. And what they did essentially is ask the council if the council wanted them to move forward with reviewing that type of zoning. And so after kind of going through the conversation, the council said, yes, ultimately we want you to pursue looking at maybe some changes in zoning and reaching out to the neighborhoods where these 8 exist. So 5 of them are in the city limit. 3 of them are outside the city, are in the urban growth area. And so you'll see that in the slideshow, they'll show where all of those are. So council did give the Community and Economic Development Department the head nod to go forward and start making a plan to reach out to those neighborhoods and
So the
talk through.
quasi judicial process was basically just getting those relooked at? Is that kind of how that, I mean, because
There's two different things.
Okay.
So one of them is the process. So they talked through, what the process is and how, and so, some of the things for that is that currently, as the quasi judicial process stands, community sentiment is not a basis for land use decisions. It's like a legal way of doing it. And they talked about there could be some other options that the city could look at, and they outlined those. And I'm not an expert in that area, so I don't want to get into that, but you can, like I said, you can watch it and hear from the experts on, what the options might be. But then the second topic was the neighborhood commercial designation, and if that's something that should change in the city's comprehensive plan. And so now is the time to look at that, because once it's set, as we saw through the Meridian market process, there was nothing that could be done at that point to change policy because the policy was already set. But in the comprehensive plan update, that's where, the policy can be looked at. So that's what Community and Economic Development was asking council, like, would you be supportive? Do you want us to move forward?
Yeah, because
with
some of
looking
it
at a
sounded
potential
like it was
change, and they
pretty
said yes.
old when it was set up, like it was 10 years ago when the zoning was looked at, or?
Well, yeah, so it's interesting, watch the work session because it has been updated
Mhm.
over the years. There were some updates that were done. And again, I want to make sure I'm giving accurate information, so
I'll stop
I
elaborating.
would rather you hear from,
No, you're good.
you know.
After working with the building industry, I'm pretty familiar with the land use and these policies and there's a lot of stuff competing right here too. The walkability that she discusses for people that do not have transportation as well, are the people that are going to be ultimately impacted by these things that probably will not be vocalizing their issues, which is a big concern that I have listening to that. You know what I mean? I'm very it's very, very frustrating. If you hear what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm seething, I'm sorry.
No, that's, but yeah, again, I'll send the link out. I encourage you to watch it. It is long. I think it was about 3 hours long and there were some people that came from the public. But it was good conversation. And I think with watching the video, you can fast forward over the parts that you aren't as interested in, but it was pretty insightful in learning about the process. So definitely would encourage you to watch that. And that's all I had for that.
Okay, the director's report, we've already done A.
Yep.
Sports commissioners, commission, there's none, programs and special events. Are you covering for Sue?
Yeah, covering for Sue. She couldn't be here tonight. She just wanted to let everybody know that fall registration starts September 14th. So that's going to be exciting. And our next special event is Children's Day. That's in early October. And so she said we're kind of between sports right now. T-ball ended and youth basketball is going to be starting up. So not too extensive of a report there. You heard from, glad you got to hear from Cody about summer programs and day camp and playground pals. And then my only other update was about the bus stop, just to kind of follow up under miscellaneous. So, and actually, Sarah, did you want to talk about, she contacted Intercity Transit
Oh, wow.
to talk about that bus stop by the rack?
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, so I contacted Intercity Transit. I talked to them and they made a mention that they add in things like a half bench or they add in a sheltered bench depending on the needs of folks there. And so they usually do studies around the community that show what the needs are going to be. And so they prep accordingly. But if there's changes or there are people in the area that frequently use the bus stop who have disabilities or a need to sit down or they can't stand for prolonged periods of time or need access to a shelter space while they're waiting. They can entertain the proposal to go in and take a look at redoing that or building one out there, but they have to have some kind of community initiative to push forward and do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the new subdivision that's being placed just beyond the rack.
Problem.
That was weird.
Okay, there's a brand new subdivision. The new subdivision that's going in right beyond the rack, like as you're going out into the UGA, because I live beyond that off of Union Mills. And there's a whole mess of construction. They got it down to one lane right now. And it's like a whole new neighborhood. So I'm talking about, you know, more people, and there's the apartment complex there. So does that have any say or influence into that? Because you're gonna have increased traffic and
I would
persons.
think so.
And would that come from TIF?
Where are you at?
I am in by Seven Oaks Elementary, is where I live. But what I'm saying is I pass the rack on, you know, I can never remember Martin and Marvin.
Yeah.
You know, whatever's by the.
You're talking about the new apartments going in off of Marvin Road.
Well, no, there's
before-
another subdivision just beyond the rack and Nisqually. If you go up there, it's on the left. It's like a massive, they're working on the entrance to that thing. And then there's already houses inside of it. I'm nosy.
Okay.
But you know, there's like a whole subdivision, but it's the rack. And then it's that new subdivision. And then there's the apartment complex
Okay.
right before you get to Union Mills where that railroad tracks is. But I'm just saying there is gonna be, you know, a lot more people. So, and she was saying if it has to be a community initiative, does that, like, would that prompt it?
What would the community
I-
initiative look like from?
I feel like intercity transit probably looks at when there's new developments and where the bus lines need to go in. But I do think like if you know of anybody who is a frequent rider and, you know, like uses that bus stop, encourage them to reach out to intercity transit. And the other thing that Sarah and I were talking about is it wouldn't hurt for the park board to write a letter to intercity transit and just say this is a heavily used park. And we're happy to draft it up, actually, if you guys want us to bring it.
Yeah, and
To a
plus
future meeting.
you also have middle schoolers, you also have high schoolers, because my son is one of them. He utilizes the thing to go to the parks and he goes from River Ridge out. So,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes he walks halfway. I don't get the child, but whatever. you know.
Well, and all of our new community members who are moving in didn't even know that, or are not aware that our busing is free. So that part is actually kind of starting to come to fruition. I'm noticing more people coming up and saying, I heard that your buses go everywhere for free. I was like, that is true. That is very true. So we've got a lot more people who are interested in using the transit. So, I mean, and if we want to draft something up and it would be nice to have something that is available. There's just a lot of traffic on that street there. I think it was 8th and Marvin.
Yeah, so we looked at an aerial shot of it and yeah, I think if the park board would like to write a letter, you know, it should include, because there is a stop there, but you're talking about like a bench and maybe a covered area for people. Yeah, so I think that's something that you could highlight in the letter and just
Do you need
ask.
me to write it?
If you have time, yeah.
I can write a letter.
Yeah,
since
that
it's
would be
my-
amazing,
Since
yeah.
it's my grievance or my opinion, I guess.
Well, and then what we can do, if you want to send that over to Sarah, we can get it into your packet. And then if the other commissioners want to add anything.
Okay. Do you want me to send it to everyone on our board here?
No, just send it to Sarah and
Okay.
she'll put a draft letter in the next packet.
Okay, wonderful.
That's the way to do it. Because if we start emailing suggestions, then we have a quorum.
Yep,
So,
you're right.
and then it's a public meeting. So
I knew that. I was just.
you have to be careful about that.
I was just testing.
Thank you. And that's all I have for my director's report.
Well, thank you for looking into that. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah.
Of course, happy to.
Thank you, thank you.
Comments or anything?
For commissioners?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so.
Oh, I get to go first. Oh, Well, one, I was gonna say this Saturday, at Rainier Vista Park, my good friend, his organization is 501c3 called Leading the Sidelines. It's gonna be doing a walk to remember for fallen service members. It kind of focuses a lot on 22 a day specifically, but it is open to other forms of, deaths like illness and suicide and KIA. And we're meeting up at 10:30 a.m. and it starts actually at 11 a.m. And once again, that's at Rainier Vista Park. I'll be there. I think I talked her into it. I don't know. I talked to my friend and he says, we're just trying to be supportive of one another. And I'm looking forward to more events like this. Well, it's still nice. So, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other, you got any comments?
Oh, I always have, me, Gary. So I did all my reports, my commissioner reports for all my events that I went to. And then one of them that was canceled. So I wanted to do kind of a small shout out because at Woodland Creek, I know Dave kind of got left out and I apologize, Dave. I was sad that you weren't at Woodland Creek. But Commissioner Good was there and so was Byron and they did amazing. It was really, really well done. And like I said, those QR code cards are great. Those were amazing. And there was a lot of community members that are not aware of the Greg Cuyo Park project. So I know you don't want to hear that, but it was nice that we got to share that with them, that, and show them where it's at. But I think the magnitude of how big this project is, even to me, it's kind of overwhelming to a lot. So I think the information, specific facts about the park, how big it's gonna be, how far it stretches, who's going to be impacted, be really helpful for us as commissioners to talk with people about it, just so we can give it good. I want it to be a big win for, when.
Talking points.
These big talking points, yeah, this is how large it's gonna be, or what's gonna be provided in it, or what we're looking at for that area. And that was kind of the feedback I was getting for that. And I wanted to thank also Jen, Sarah, and Jamie for the grill. I've been up there about 4 times. People are using the new grill. It is very safe at Wonderwood Park.
Oh, good.
It looks fabulous and it's all cleaned up and the new cement is put around, a new posting. So thank you, and thank you some more. I really appreciate it. The part. I think that is all I have.
Okay, I have nothing, chair's report.
Dave,
Dave, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Okay, a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second?
I second that emotion. I mean, emotion.
Okay.
6:49.
49. Okay, next meeting is.
Next meeting is October. Oh, gotta ask the hard questions here. It's the first Wednesday in October.
October 5th.